Hey guys, Deanna here from Hot for History, and today we are going to talk about some of the headlines that are out because of a brand new book where it has been stated that Harry was absolutely furious, angry, infuriated at the king. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about that article. We're going to talk a little bit about some other royal news that we have. But many people actually think that if anybody should be furious with anybody, it should be that the king is furious with Harry and Meghan for all that has transpired. For example, they not only left the royal family, but they then did an Oprah interview. They also had a falling out before that. They decided to write a book. They decided to have a Netflix series where all of the royal dirty laundry was pretty much exposed. And so if anybody should be angry at anybody, who should it be? Probably the king. And I wouldn't doubt if the king wasn't a little bit upset with his son. I can totally understand why he would be upset with his son. But these articles are really talking about Harry being furious with the king for some following reasons. So we're going to discuss the king's coronation, and we're going to discuss whether or not they're going and what this book is talking about. But first, we're going to kind of answer some questions. Say hi to everybody. Let me know where you're coming in from. I am in Orlando, Florida. It's a beautiful day today, but I hear it's beautiful all over the United States, even in the Midwest. I have a tree down in my big house. If you guys have been following my my videos, my Hot for History channel started because I wanted to talk about this house I bought for that used to be my great grandparents' house. But let me see what we have here. Okay, so hello from Colorado. How's the weather in Colorado? Let me know because I'm really curious how it is there. Ohio, what did I think about the Oprah interview? I mean, at the time, honestly, I was like, okay, it's just another Oprah interview, right? I didn't think anything awful about it, except that I did think that there were a lot of mistruths, there. So, okay, so we have Boston. Hey, Beverly. All of us, so many people have some creative names, so I don't really know how to pronounce everybody. Australia, that's one place that's on my bucket list. Where in Australia are you? I'm very, very curious. Also want to go to New Zealand. But we're going to discuss this. I'm going to kind of break this down, guys. I am Deanna from Hot for History. If you haven't checked out my short videos, I make short videos about some royal news and gossip because we're living in that now, but mainly quirky history news. Quirky history shorts. That's what I mainly do. I started about a year ago. I've been having a blast on YouTube. I'm on other platforms as well. Look through my description. I do have some little offers. For example, I would love for you guys to fill out the survey because I'm thinking of taking a trip at some point next year, like a tour. I'm thinking of starting to do that, like to go out on the road, do these little history tours. And I'm taking a survey as to like where the best places are. And the other way you can support me is just continue to watch and share it with your friends. Of course, we have the super chats, which is very helpful. And I'm an affiliate with some companies, mainly some nutrition companies. If you ever want to change your vitamins, go there and, order there. So let's talk about this whole thing. First off, who should be more angry than, who should really be upset with who? Should it be Harry mad at the king or vice versa? So let's discuss this right now. So there's a new book out apparently that's called Our King by this guy, Robert Jobson. And this news about Harry being furious goes all the way back, to 2000 and I think maybe 2016, like 2020, this news in Adelaide. I would love to go there. Okay. Are you, so anyhow, there's the big question on whether or not Harry should even marry Meghan. They're all like, we're a little reluctant. Are you sure? Prince William said. Then Prince Charles delivered the second blow. This is the big thing that Harry is apparently really mad about. is that rather than congratulating Harry on the engagement, he said he couldn't afford to pay Meghan as a member of the royal family because he was already bankrolling Camilla and William's growing family, Jobson states in an excerpt obtained by the Daily Mail. This apparently infuriated Harry, wrote Jobson, who also authored 2 books on Princess Diana alongside her former bodyguard, Ken Wharf. Okay, let's talk about this. Like, do you think a king with 2 sons, with his mother still alive, the queen, would actually say to his son, okay, we can't afford to take care of you and your brother and we just don't have the money when they have multiple millions, you know? So I feel now Charles, in my opinion, didn't always make the greatest choices as a father. And I think he wasn't like all warm and fuzzy, but I think he has warm feelings towards his kids. He just has like the foot in the mouth thing. Like he just doesn't know what to say. Goes all the way back to when, you know, he was interviewed during his engagement where he goes, whatever love is. Like he's not eloquent in that way. He's not touchy feely in that way. So I'm not sure if what we're hearing regarding that interview is legit or not. Okay, so yeah, we aren't really privy to knowing everything. So apparently, according to Robert Jobson, the bombshell led to one of the initial falling out between father and son. Charles stopped taking Harry's call after his son swore at him and repeatedly asked for funds. Okay, I want to stop there too. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think the one thing that I feel like we've learned in the past, you know, year, however long it's been, maybe 2 years, but literally, you know, 6 months, 8 months since the Queen passed away, right? Is that many of us thought of Harry as our favorite, you know, prince. I mean, he was fun, you know, all of that. But he's clearly showing his entitlement there. He is clueless as to what the rest of the world does. In my opinion, it's still rich people problems. I feel like the Queen probably indulged her spare and expected Prince Charles to do the same. But that didn't happen. And so Harry's like, where's my money, Poppy? Like, he's really entitled. He just is. He has this entitled thing. And yes, Charles probably has his reasons as well. Okay, so Jobson theorizes that all of the incidents Harry and Meghan have publicly whined about, such as the spat between Kate and Meghan in the lead up to their wedding, when the actress said then pregnant Duchess must have been suffering from baby brain, were made bigger in their minds because King Charles's initial refusal to accept Meghan as a working royal. That's true. I always kind of struggle over how offensive the baby brain comment was. I mean, I'm an American. I have heard things like that, but she was saying it to Kate, who was, you know, the princess, another princess, and not from our culture, you know? So I don't know. It could have been her just being crude like that, but probably shouldn't have said that. But at the same time, I don't know if it was as large of an offense as people make it out to be. Harry had a strong inkling that William disapproved of Meghan and considered their romance a whirlwind affair. Meghan felt Kate was standoffish from the initial meeting, forming an uncomfortable relationship that continued through their years as in-laws. I mean, if she agreed with her husband, she may have been standoffish. Even Queen Elizabeth became turned off by the couple's antics, particularly after the 2021 interview with Oprah, in which they heavily criticized the monarchy and accused the family of not accepting Meghan out of racist ideals. I cannot imagine, guys. Can you imagine ever like doing an interview like that and saying those things while the Queen was still alive? Like, I don't know. There's so much respect that people had for her that I don't know. The late Queen, and by the way, speaking of the racist stuff, there is a lot going on right now regarding the British history of, you know, racism and slavery and stuff. And, you know, like Chris Rock basically said, you know, like, duh, did we not know that? We know that it goes way, way back, but maybe they have been in denial, but you know, it does go way back. But that didn't necessarily mean, of course, we don't know what they meant exactly when they said that somebody asked about the color of the skin. Chris Rock was like, that's not racist. We all want to know, you know, and then Harry dialed back those comments, but the Queen ended up hearing all this. She described them as quite mad, Jobson wrote, and later came to believe that Harry was so consumed by his love for his wife that it was clouding his judgment. Despite that, despite the obvious frostiness between the couples, royal watchers may see yet another reunion at the coronation. Really? So here's the thing. Do you guys think they're going to go to the coronation? Like, do you think it's going to happen? There was a deadline. There was a deadline recently of like April 3rd, I think, and they did not even respond. Like, they did not respond yet. So that's the other thing. It's like, it's very disrespectful. Can you imagine? Like, most of us, even for a wedding reception, we'll make sure, like, if we're late, we're like mortified, right? Aren't we like mortified if we're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to send that in and we're coming. Is it still okay? That's kind of what we do. But when you're in the news and everybody knows you're waiting and you're waiting, it's basically kind of a big F you. It's like, hey, dude, I will let you know when I feel like it. Another entitlement thing. And it messes with my brain to think of Harry as entitled, because I used to not think of him that way. But he's highly entitled. It's like, we'll tell you when we feel like it. Like, they're not even like the first. I mean, how far down the line is Harry? Like 5? I mean, 4 or 5, whatever. Harry's entitled. They all are. They have no concept of life. Yeah. They don't have any concept of life. Yeah. And it's this entitlement thing. And here's the thing. Even if I was invited and I thought they were entitled and it was like a big posh thing, I would still show the respect to the king because of the position. Doesn't mean that I might think that he's wacky, right? But I would probably still send in the invitation just because of basic etiquette. Basic etiquette. Even Joe Biden sent in a call and said, heck, I'm not coming, but I'm sending my wife. That's a whole other subject that we will not go into, because I don't like it to get into the politics thing. I had bad experience with that. So let's talk about this. We do know that there was an invitation out that was sent. The official invitation is out. So what we know is that in the official invitation, it says Queen Camilla. So for those of you, again, next, we'll do it again for those in the back. She is a queen consort, but she is the queen, just like every other queen before who was a consort. They call them the queen. Some of us don't like it. Some of us love it. But she had her first appearance apparently at this Maundy Thursday, handing out flowers. It was a lovely event for Easter. Another bit of trivia. Meghan never went to any of the Easter events because one time she was pregnant, and then the other time I think it was a little early in their relationship. Okay, so let's read what you're gonna say, girl. Okay, sometimes I think Harry's like a spoiled brat because you didn't coddle me. I'm gonna, make you uncomfortable. Yeah, he feels, it's so weird. It's like he feels like, look, I can do anything the heck I feel like it. And from my experience, that's because he had parents that didn't really draw true boundaries and say, hey, dude, back off, right? It was like, I get to do what the heck I feel like. I am who I am. I'm the prince. So, but it does it mess with your mind? It really messes with my mind because I think of Harry. Okay. And again, I know I mentioned this, but I kind of have to flesh it out. I think of him as sort of being the fun, more down to earth guy. I think of him sort of as, less, I don't know. I just don't, it messes me up because I'm constantly surprised. The first time I noticed it was when he was like, well, I've never taken a subway ride. That's why. So he didn't even know how to take a subway ride. Okay. So you cannot treat someone this way from infancy and expect them to have a concept like that. The rule is made by them. It doesn't apply to them. Then they think we should be honored by their presence at all. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, we watch because we're interested. It's sort of like they call it rubbernecking when you're like watching an accident. Like, it's not like, it's just like a soap opera that we're seeing. But they think, and it's Meghan too, like, well, everybody must be waiting for our answer. Let's mess with the press again. Let's mess with the royal family. And they have the upper hand. It's a power struggle. It's a power struggle. The king could just say, okay, they're not coming because we had our deadline. they're not coming. And so yada, 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 you are done, people. So again, they have not given their answer yet, whether or not they're coming. Yeah. So I did hear this about Biden, is that he's Irish Catholic and they thought it would be weird to go because of that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. So yes, to regarding the Megan thing, shaking my head. I mean, it's like they're living in their own private Idaho. Like they definitely have this concept of themselves and the importance of who they are that isn't in something in reality. It doesn't really exist. Okay, I'm going to ask this question. Do you guys think that they're going to stay together? Like, do you think that they'll stay together, or do you think that at some point it's going to be like, bye-bye, Birdie, we are done? Prince William baffled. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think? Do you think that they're going to stay together? I think not. I think he would like it to be that way, but look, she's got a lot, she's got, more fame now. She's, whatever, but I don't know. I'm not sure. We can't really predict. Okay. So by the way, The Guardian, I'm going to talk about The Guardian for a second. I'm not showing it here, but they're doing these really interesting exposés on the finances with the royal family that I want to dive into. So go over there. I think the first one was released a few days ago. Okay, let me read some of these. I'm sorry, I'm late to the party. Welcome. Welcome anybody who showed up late. Please let me know also where you're, yeah, they have no etiquette. It's just whatever. Yeah, they don't. I mean, in fact, it's as if they waited till after so everybody could go, okay, where's the stragglers? Or they had to reach out to them. Apparently they did have terms. Again, I never know what's real or what's not, but it's widely publicized and reported that they wanted to be on the balcony, which only working royals are on the balcony. They wanted Archie's name to be shouted out because it's his birthday in one of the events, and they wanted invitations to both their kids, which I don't think a lot of little kids are being invited, but it would be nice to have some type of invitation, I guess. I think William is likely to, girl, you don't be, I can't even. No. No. But you might be right. But I don't even want to entertain that right now. I can't. I can't. My brain cannot comprehend all of this. So don't. Okay. But that's a funny and interesting thing to say. And I know that you're not kidding. King Charles and Queen Camilla is the real love story. They loved each other despite the disapproval of the Queen. They forced them to marry someone else. Camilla married someone else. They made it. Yeah, the one thing I like about hearing comments is I do like to hear all the sides, and I get it because, okay, so I've talked a lot about, Diana too, and how, she married him, and, they needed a virgin, they needed someone intact, they needed somebody to be able to bring the heir and the spare into the world. He did love Camilla. Apparently it was a no-go from the beginning because of several reasons. And then she ended up getting married. And so they were trying to hook him up even with his other cousins, but Camilla had been around. And Camilla also may have been his second cousin, his half-second cousin, which I'm doing a video on right now, because Camilla is the her great grandfather. I know it sounds like it shouldn't be that close, but it is. Her great grandfather would have been Edward VII. Alice Keppel is her great grandmother. Sonia, the child that Alice Keppel had, may have been, and that would have been the grandmother to Camilla, may have been Edward's child. And then, of course, on the other side, we know that Charles is related. So, but I don't think it would have been the cousin thing that would have kept them apart, because cousin things never kept anybody apart before. And they were trying to get him married to like one of his first cousins. But I digress a little bit. You bring up this thing about it being a love story. There's several ways to look at it. One is she's the evil woman. They are crazy. They pushed Diana out, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, you are absolutely right. They loved each other from the beginning. They wanted to get married. They couldn't get married because of all of this BS. And then years, they had to wait and wait and wait, have their own children and even grandchildren. And well, they got together before they had the grandchildren, but she's been in the royal family now for like 18 years. And so you are right that there is a love story there too. It's just sort of this bitter, for the public, it's sort of bitter because bittersweet, let's just say. But there is, I feel like there is a case for Camilla and Charles. And if you look at it that way, it's an amazing story. But then it's kind of clouded by the other thing. And I feel like Harry, one of the reasons, like, siblings can take things in a totally different way. But one of the reasons why I think it's hard for him is because all of a sudden, now you're seeing your dad and this woman be crowned who he never totally accepted, even though he said he did. But in his book, don't call the queen. Don't call the king's girlfriend and wife what you called her. He went off. So yeah, there is an amazing story there, but it could also be seen in a different way. I think Diana was elevated so much in the public eye, and she used the media in a good way. I don't think she was as innocent as people make her out to be. She had affairs. I thought that they reconciled before the end, but whatever. Camilla controls Charles. Well, I think that she's always been really self-confident with him, and he's had a great respect for her from the very beginning, and he's had a desire for her in the very beginning. So she just tells it like it is. And to go back into history, Alice Keppel, her great-grandmother, was the same way. She was a woman who wanted to have an affair with the king. He was a prince then, had an affair with him for 12 years. And the Queen Alexandra, she didn't even, not that she didn't care, but she was accustomed to her, and they actually got along. And so it was just, she had that influence on the king as well. It's really interesting how history repeats itself. Okay, so let's read what you're saying here, Reagan. Okay, I liked her and have given her the benefit of many doubts. She didn't return to be a typical American. She's likely held to be pretty strict. Prenup. Are you talking about Camilla? Oh yeah, prenup, strict prenup after Charles's. Yeah. Are you talking about? You're talking about Camilla still, right, Reagan? I believe so. Oh, I'm sure there was some kind of prenup. Definitely. William may be moving Rose to the same. Listen, I had a whole conversation about this on one of my lives. We will revisit this probably after the coronation. I do know that her husband was given a position next to the king. I do know her son and George are page boys or whatever. I don't know if they're going to call them page boys or assistants, part of the court in the coronation. His name's Oliver. And I do know that Charles even said to Diana, look, I'm not going to be the first king. Could be a rumor, but whatever. I'm not going to be the first king without a mistress. It's just that things are a little bit different now. There was a time when it kind of came back out in the open and it was not a big deal. Now I think people are a little bit more, I don't know. Kate is way, extremely respected, but maybe they have one of those open marriages. So I wonder who Kate's side guy is. Haha, sorry. That was probably a little tacky. Okay, so I liked her. Okay, so William may be moving Rose. I didn't see William. I hope not. I don't like that she's saying that, but I can't deny that it could be possible. I don't know. I don't see them divorcing. I just see him maybe if he's having affairs. Harry's delusional, and it's so sad that Harry married somebody who is delusional too, and it's living is in an unrealistic world and only come out into reality when they leave their home. The whole thing is rather sad because he had some really good girlfriends. And Meghan on her own, like you almost in some ways, I'm sorry, some of you are not going to like this, can't blame her. She's just kind of being her American self, I guess. It's not like he didn't know she was an actress pursuing fame. I've been in the entertainment business my whole life. I know how that goes. It's very hard to find somebody who, is an actress, successful, and is able to kind of humble themselves and fall into it. Grace Kelly did. She was very, very famous, but apparently she wasn't all that happy. So there are actresses who have been able to do that, but Harry had Chelsea Davy was an amazing girlfriend. He had all of these excellent girlfriends, but honestly, a lot of them were like, oh no way. I am not marrying you and I'm not going into that family. I am cool on my own. And so they all married really rich guys, or Chelsea started her own business, and they all just were much happier this way. But he had excellent girlfriends. So I don't know. I think they'll eventually get divorced. Okay. Meghan and Harry. Okay, Meghan has his ticket out of the fishbowl. Okay, this is an interesting comment. I got to read it over here. Do you know that I got brand new glasses, but these are prescription? These are not, I have to, even though these have progressive reading on them, I have to put this on. It's crazy because I have really small print over here because the computer's not where you think it is. Meghan was his ticket out of the fishbowl, out of the rigid routine, out of his brother's shadows. She took advantage of him and used his family to make herself she took advantage of him, used the film to make herself infamous rather than famous. They have fame, fortune, and he has freedom. She reportedly wore his mom's perfume to their first date. Oh, girl, that's just downright scary. That is like something out of I don't know, Fatal Attraction. Grifter through and through. While the king is his dad, he should stay home since he is a state event. Yeah, not a family gathering. They should not give. Okay, those two. I know. I feel like okay, a lot. Let me leave your comment up. Sorry. I do think that in some ways that was it. He wanted a way out. It's like, how do I find my freedom and my voice? And it's like the first time you give a kid something and you put them in a room, they over try it. He did not know anything about poise, about not expressing himself. And she probably did that thing that, quite frankly, it's, in my opinion, it's old school. Just express yourself at all costs. People have stopped doing that from the 90s. Before that, in 1970s, 80s, it's please express everything about yourself. People have learned the benefit of composure, of being able to have a little bit of boundaries. He could still be in the public eye and not tell everybody everything, right? But Meghan, in my opinion, gave him the freedom she was like, you go, you talk about them. And she probably is they're probably like this. You won't believe what William said. Oh, I can't believe what Kate said. They're probably like this, and they can't come off of that loop. I know what it's like to be on that negative loop. And then you start believing, own narrative. So that's probably what happened. I would still like them to have go to the coronation. They shouldn't they shouldn't make demands. But it would be nice to see some reconciliation. But I also know that even the Queen said when they had this Megxit summit that Meghan wanted to go to on a video, it was in Sandringham. So they were going to have this thing with Harry, what's going on? How are you going to leave? Here are your options. They wanted, and Meghan was like, I need to be there too. It was Harry, Will, and Charles. And the Queen, I think. And then they're like, no, she doesn't not need to be here. And we can't trust her or them to just have a screen on Zoom or even a secured thing, because we don't know who else is there, what she's documenting. And the Queen also had the room bug, what do you call it when they go through to get rid of it? Scrubbed. She had the room scrubbed for bugs because she didn't want them to be bugged. She didn't want it. And so they ended up, after that meeting, Harry and Will and his dad had this agreement that they will never meet Harry and Meghan alone without some types of witnesses. And if you notice some of the clips, even from the Jubilee and from the funeral, nobody in the royal family would hardly talk to them because they were afraid there was some kind of recording device there. Apparently, allegedly. So anyhow, Meghan, so let me see some new comments. Yeah, Meghan will go into politics. Yep, she got basically her boost. She'll go into, I don't know if she would, maybe she could do well. I don't know why anybody would want to be in politics, but hey, that's just me. He looks as if he's entitled. He looks as if he's entitled. Do you also think he has resentment toward his stepmother? Oh, absolutely. I call it projection. Because I have some kids. I have a large family, and I have some children that they're teens now. They're amazing, that were from what they call ACE, adverse childhood experiences. So I have some adopted kids. And what happens, and what you're trained to do if you're smart and really listen to the pros, is that they project their anger onto you. And if you're the one who did it, you're going to be, they're going to project it more. And oftentimes they don't reconcile it. And sometimes they project it on other people. Sometimes they project good things, like Megan being DEANNA to him. And so it's because they're trying to process, and they could process it 10, 15 years later when they all of a sudden feel comfortable and relaxed in their lives to be and safe in order to do it. So I totally think that he has resentment. I think it would be hard to watch Camilla being crowned, but he's a big boy. He's a man. He can sit there and watch it. And also, as far as drama like that, we get to choose what drama we make in our heads. He can learn, and somebody should teach him how to, is that really a problem, or are you exaggerating it in your mind? Okay, so Megan will go into politics. Yes, it's a state event. Yes, it's a state event, but they don't separate state from family. It's all about them. At one point, their family didn't even separate themselves from God. They believed their word was and will. I mean, the whole coronation ceremony, Reagan, is that he's holding the orb, like the world, in his hand. He's in charge of the entire, Charles is in charge of the entire, English, Church of England. He has to make an oath in that respect. And yet he's also part of the magic circle, which in some Christian circles is contradictory. There's a lot of hypocrisy and dysfunction. Harry's not wrong that there's dysfunction. Okay, none of us are saying that. I'm just talking about the invitation. It's got to be weird. It's got to be strange, but there's dysfunction there. And so you might be saying, let me ask you this. Are you saying that they're not dividing it up from, they're saying, oh, it's a state event, when in the past, they've always had, they did have Margaret and Elizabeth on the stand with King George when he became on the balcony. So are you saying that they're conveniently kind of saying only state people, only, people involved, in official roles, they're using that as an excuse? Or do you think that that's, the way it was? Because all the press is like, well, it's a state event, so they wouldn't be up there. But I'm like, I've seen the family up there, but I think we've seen the family up there for the Trooping of Colors and for a couple of other events. There's a lot of emotional incestuous issues going on and displacement. Yeah. And especially on Harry's part and Meghan's part. And so we can tell ourselves anything we want in our minds. We can give ourselves a really great story. And especially when we've been devastated early on in our lives, that means sometimes our emotional state is stunted. And I think that Harry has not learned how to maneuver and move through some of this stuff. He was, to give him, listen, he went through an awful experience as a child, but so did Will. And so I've seen this before with siblings. They can handle it in many different ways based on nature, and then based on how they're being told and what kind of, support they have around them. It does not sound like they had very good support through the divorce alone and then after. So he has this resentment toward the media. Of course, I am not a psychologist. I've just raised a lot of children, and I've, done my own work, but I'm not there. I'm just saying, this is us talking in a bar about what we've learned from our therapists, right? This is us. This is what I'm doing. But he could have dealt with that. He could have learned that, but it's stunted, and he feels like he needs to say it all. And by the way, as much as he says he hates the media, he doesn't know how to live without the media. He just wants to control the media so that he can control everything they say. Because if he could have controlled the media when his mother had that accident, she would not have been dead. Drop the mic. I'm just saying that is something to think about. It was a state event, not a family. Yeah, it is a state event, not a family gathering. But part of me wonders, hey, Like, are they like saying that because of whatever? Okay, so British royalty cannot be involved in, she would have to renounce any titles or our government will remove them from her. That's a really great point, Brian. So they can't be involved in our politics. They're not even supposed to be involved in politics, period, according to the parliament on the other side. So as far as the United States, yeah, you're right. She would have to denounce all of that. And when Harry was asked, hey, would you give up your title? He's like, what's the point? Why would we give it up? So I don't know. Harry and Meghan's seat will be near William and Kate, but they will not be invited to the family function or as heads of state. So they'll be sitting near them. Yeah, because I did hear too that they were going to give them a little bit of the red carpet, treatment. And, he is the son of the monarch. Why not? And look, we all have to live with the relatives we don't like. Like many of us will go, hi, we'll be cordial. What do you make of the lies they tell? Well, I mean, it's nonstop. It's very, I think they actually believe some of their lies, but I mean, it's just nonstop. And so, I mean, even if you talk about Meghan with her sister, this is what they decided to do. So technically it's not a lie. Her sister, I don't know if she totally lost the case, but lost some of the case. She wanted to take Meghan to task for saying that she was an only child she was an only child growing up, which wasn't true. She was she had half siblings. Meghan won the case because her lawyers were able to say, well, that was her truth. And she felt like she was an only child. And that's what she meant. Okay, so here we go. No support. If his mother was alive, he would have been grounded that Halloween. Yes. And I was listening to another a royal commentator today who also made this really great statement. They said, if Diana had not passed away, he never would have married Meghan. I thought this was brilliant. This was Brittany from Royal News. I always forget what her channel is, but she said, and I thought this was brilliant, that that he would not have married Meghan because he's constantly Meghan's a replacement for Diana. So he's always talking about Meghan being like Diana, Meghan being like Diana. If he had that part of himself sort of filled up and he had that relationship with her, he wouldn't have tried to replace it. And it would have been a whole other scene. He would have been a different man. Absolutely. I thought Harry had gone through endless therapy. Well, yeah, probably, but I don't know. I didn't think he went through endless therapy, but I think he probably had some. But then he said that he needed some, alternative, drugs or whatever. King Charles is stunting for the public camera. He wants the world to think he loves his child, but in private. I think that's true too. I get very confused with Charles. I think he's like, he's got the ink on his finger. By the way, he's going to have to sign something in the coronation. So he gets really upset about little things, but apparently he's patient about the big things, about the coronation. There is a contradiction there, and I think you might be right. Meghan rarely saw her half siblings. True, but you could play with the semantics. Samantha played with the semantics, and Meghan's playing with the semantics too. Like, well, I wasn't really, but I was. But I think it's best that the case was just dropped. I think he only received therapy as a child due to his mother's death. Perhaps I'm mistaken. Consider it's illegal to speak about the king. It's treason. How he express anything? I know. And so that's why what we're seeing, in my opinion, is this person who feels safe. No matter what anybody feels about Meghan, he feels safe, and he needed to get away from them in order to feel like, it's like you feel like you finally, you had to pee for a long time and you finally just went. Like, he was probably crying. He probably said it all, and like he got it all out. It's not pleasant to well, it's interesting for us to watch. We're talking about it, but it probably was something that was held and he didn't have anybody to talk about it. And again, as far as therapy is concerned, as far as what people think about their childhood, it really doesn't matter what was. Everything's perception. So in his mind, and I do think I do think there are positives about what Harry and Meghan are doing. I think that there are many positives. I think that they are trying to say, look, let's talk about the real craziness of this, right? Let's talk about how dysfunctional this is, and let's talk about it. Like, why couldn't I say anything? My mother had been killed. Why couldn't I have said anything? How can a therapist lead him through healthy behavior in response to his father when his dad, in other words, the therapist, well, that's true. Even the therapist could have manipulated his freedom of thought if his therapist was high. I don't know. I mean, it's a good point. Rebellion is typical, and they've been saving it up. Yeah, it's sort of like this delayed thing. I liken it. This is what had happened to some of my kids. So I liken it to being, again, I haven't been through war, but I've had similar experience. You're in the middle of a battle or a trauma. You're in the middle of the trauma, and you don't feel you feel the shock, but you're trying to help. Like, let's say, you're giving somebody CPR, or you're, trying to save somebody from something. You're not sitting there crying and sobbing and whatever. And some of these things, these loops, these experiences can go on for years. You're just trying to survive. His mom died. Like, maybe she's alive, maybe she's not alive. Okay, now I need to be the man too early, but I don't really have a man to look up to because he's off with his girlfriend. Like, he needed his dad more, and he's the future king. So I don't really have the male role model, but I really need one. Even Charles had one, but his parents were around, right? But Charles had his uncle. I'm sorry. He had, his guy Mountbatten. So, but Harry, it doesn't sound like he had it. His brother didn't want to be that to him. He didn't really have the guy that was really kind of helping him. And he had that babysitter. What was her name? Tiggy. I always get her name wrong. You guys might be able to help me. But anyhow, he didn't have that. And so for years, he's just trying to survive. Finally, he meets this woman who's all about expressing yourself. Like, go ahead, express yourself. Well, how do you feel? Well, what's okay for you not to feel? It's okay for you to feel a little. I'm just saying that's how a lot of us think in America. Let's express it. Let's get it out, right? And Meghan especially seems to be one about, talk therapy. So she, like I said, doesn't matter what you think about her. I'm just telling you what I think has happened. She's like giving him a safe place to be. And by the way, let's get the heck out so you can finally be in a safe place. And so it's years later and he's much older, but now it's like, I can see, and then what happened? And then what happened? But what he's doing is we're all having to see it at the same time. I needed therapy just trying to figure all this out. Yeah. I know. Me too. I know. We all need to have counseling after this. H&M thrown to the media wolves to protect William's affairs, and that is a good point too. Now, Harry did say in his book, I should just get rid of any clips that I'm showing. I'm not even going to show the clips. We're just going to talk. So let me get up here. Okay, so Harry did say, and let me know how you think about this. He said that the Royal Rota, or whatever they call it, uses media to deflect from the thing. So they'll kind of pick a person who's not as important. And in his case, he's the spare. He's not the heir. So of course he's not as important. So they're going to use stories about him. And he said that they would swap stories. So they'd swap stories. So this is what I'm wondering. Yes, there's the stuff going on with, supposed stuff going on with William, which, I don't know. But this is what I'm wondering. All of this talk, everything about all of the royal stuff, it's advantageous for them to have as much royal stuff in the news, even the bad stuff leading up to the coronation. So there's that part of me that's from the hood in Chicago, that is this whole thing about them even talking about, Harry, Will, all of it is to deflect from anything from the king, because we want the king, his, to be smelling like roses. So all of the stuff, we don't even know. Maybe they wanted to Rizvip. Maybe all of the stuff that we hear is not true. We know that things are planted. So we got to keep that in mind. So you bring up a really good point. Harry was always treated as a special case. Wait, did I click the right thing? Is he giving him, is she giving him a safe place or setting up to leave him? Yeah, well, he thinks it's a safe place. I don't know. I sound like we're writing a soap opera. He thinks it's safe, but you don't know. Marriage is not always safe. William did not have an affair. Admitted to making up the rumor when he was drunk. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks, like, why would they be so close to the person that they're having an affair with? And I'm sorry, I love Kate. I'm a big Kate fan. The number of stories currently in the meeting about a source, Palace is supposed to be, yeah, a source. It's always a source. We need to keep them in the news. But they would have been in the news anyhow, because since the Queen died, there's so much, swirling around of all this stuff. So, and of course, Giles had to retract an order because of the royal family. Okay, we don't know. It's hard for me to believe, guys, but it's also not hard for me to believe. You're going to find me to be one of those people that can see all of the different angles of things. I do have some strong opinions. I like the royal family, but I don't think that they're perfect. I think they're messed up. But I do think that Harry is like off, like they're way out there, like right now. Like they should have just, okay, go away. Do your therapy, do your media. Think of something really creative to do with your titles, or stay with the royal family, although they probably wouldn't have had as much money. And then that meant not as much freedom, and then they would be more control. But Meghan was doing a great job. Like she was doing some really great things with the Commonwealth. She had like this whole thing going. People loved her. She had this whole thing going with like a food kitchen. She was doing great. So, but they wanted it to be different, right? They did. So that's just what it was. Let's see. The woman who he supposedly had an affair with, it was Kate's best friend, is no longer part of their circle. I think Rose is very much part of their social circle. I think they're like really close. It's all a weird bunch. I love Kate too, but Charles demands his shoelaces to be yes, his shoelaces to be ironed. He demands that his bathtub is a certain amount of inches. The Queen did this too, and temperature. And I believe there's one person that is only in charge of his bathtub, his toothpaste. I did hear, although somebody says that this was a rumor, that he had to have his own cup for his own martini and his own toilet to come with him. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I have heard of people in high places, well, like not even, they were so afraid that somebody would even get a sample of their, you know what, to test for, for something. So you never know. He may have a, what do they call it? The groom of the stool, which the kings always had. Rose and her husband will be at the coronation, not only at the coronation, but their son, Chumley, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but her husband is going to be with the king through the ceremony. He will be in the ceremony, as well as Oliver, their son, will be right next to George. They are very good friends. You say did she have great things with the soup kitchen, with the one she's 12,000 up? Oh, this is the whole thing, is that it's all contradictory. They contradict each other all the time. Yeah, she had the shower, the outfit too, and it was totally smart on her. Yeah, they do it all. Wear the expensive dress and give out the soup. That's why it's so bizarre. But also, like, I mean, as far as fashion, that's kind of part of what is they look for. Although Kate repurposes a lot of the clothes, which I liked. For the Earth shot she got, I always say it's Rent the Runway, but I don't think it was specifically Rent the Runway. Rose's son will be a page boy with George. Yes. Beverly, William loves Catherine much more than Charles did Diana. I do think that. And this is the other thing. Okay, wait, is it Beverly? Who's my friend E.H.? Okay, this is what I think. I think, this is my opinion, that William was so hurt also from what went on with Diana. This is why I think he'd never be divorced. And this is the only thing that really makes me think, it's got to be a rumor, because he wanted like a more of a normal kind of life, and he did not even pick an aristocrat. I don't know. I just feel like he would not want to put that same stuff on his children that he went through. So, yeah. Um, yeah, now that's the other thing. They do think that they could possibly have swapped the stories. Here's a story about Megan, and here's a story about the affair. The thing is, we'll never really fully know. I don't know. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go. And I thank you. You're so much fun. You guys are the best. And I'm gonna try to come on live a lot more often during this whole coronation coming up. And I'll be going live with actual history content after the coronation. Otherwise, look for my shorts. We're doing a whole Hollywood thing right now, Hollywood theme, and a little bit of history. I will be uploading a short, but like a 5-minute video about the Queen and Charles being related, and we will follow up. Okay, so guys, thank you for subscribing. Have a great, great day, and we will talk to you next.